You have to truly believe in the magic.
How's it going, Magic fans, and welcome to this week's episode of Penny for Your Thoughts, the Orlando Magic UK podcast. This week, I'm joined by the chairman of the Ramsey Revolution down in Wales there. G, how's it going? Have you got your beer tokens ready for tomorrow night? And are you happy about Aaron Ramsey going to Cardiff?
I am, mate. Beer tokens all ready. I'm all packed up. I've got a little quiz ready for everybody. So really looking forward to seeing everybody. And it's nice to have the real Prince of Wales back in Cardiff. About time Rambo came back. So, no, very, very happy about that. We haven't had much to shout about down the city, as we say, with obviously this transfer embargo. So it's basically a bunch of freebies at the moment and trying to stay afloat. So let's hope we can get a good season next season.
That's a good signing, I think.
Yeah, I think so. A wealth of experience, Champions League player, Welsh captain. Can't ask for any more, to be honest, mate.
No, you can't. Well done. I saw that and I was genuinely happy when I saw that. So well done. And then the painting podcast himself, Mr. Mikey Clark. Mikey, I really felt as though when you told me you were painting the ceiling the other morning when I rang you, that it was like some kind of Sistine Chapel effect going on somewhere down there. So how's the king? I'm going to say how's the Gym King this week, because that's your brand, I think.
The Gym King. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I've had a good week. I've had a nice day off today on a Friday, which is quite cool. I'm enjoying a glass of red tonight because I'm not going to be drinking much tomorrow night for our little meet-up because a few of us might have to look after a certain Welsh drinker up in the top corner tomorrow night. Carry him home, or I don't know, hold his hair back when he's throwing up at the end of the night.
I'll be all right, mate. I got plenty of experience.
What, holding your hair back?
Yeah.
Got a 10-day veteran contract as a drinker to the Orlando Magic UK squad. And last but not least, the Curry King of Mansfield, Russell Westbrook, perhaps buying your team, Paul.
Hey, I'll take that. I'm genuinely happy if we are getting new owners at Ellen Road, and I know not everybody's going to be happy at an American ownership. Some teams have had good experience, some have had bad, but we're ready for something different at Ellen Road. So yeah, I'll take the investment from the 49ers group, and if Westbrook comes along, hopefully we shoot better than he does.
It can't be much worse, can it, really?
Oh, you saw the number of goals we scored last season, so yeah. Ideal team for him.
Go and say that to him. But I've got to say, though, we're having this curry in your neck of the woods, so it's a bacon curry this weekend, isn't it?
Right. I don't think that's actually on the menu, but I'm sure that they'd knock you one out if you asked them nicely.
You never know. Might order one for Gary Clark or someone like that. He's there early. So.
He's already here, isn't he? Yeah,
he's already here. Get him a bacon curry smashed up. So before we start tonight, as you know, we've got our affiliate plugs. NBA EU always updating their inventory. At some point, there's going to be a City Edition jersey drops in there. If you are thinking of buying for NBA EU and you wish to use our affiliate code, it's Magic UK 10. This will get you 10% off your order. We're not going to say it's the best discount code on the day because we really don't know. But we do know that it does work well, and feel free to use it because it helps us out. If you'd like to head over to our own online store, which is magicfansapparel.tmail.com, you can get some of our own bespoke merchandise. Again, links for this are in the description. And finally, you can help support the podcast simply by subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is Orlando Magic UK. If you have subscribed through another platform, it would really help us if you hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well. So I think the usual format tonight would be to chat through individual games, with it being Summer League. But I'm going to change things up just a little bit. And the reason for that is I think we can all agree finishing with the best record at the Summer League isn't the best plan. Really, for the Magic here, it's not what we want. And we're looking more at players and talking points rather than, what the record is and who sits top and is Summer League champions at the end of it. So it's really more about reps, this. So I think there's two obvious talking points. And then there's a few other things that merit attention tonight, boys. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of grilling here. The obvious one to start with is Anthony Black. We've had a look at him now. We know, again, it's Summer League. We're not going to anoint anybody. Well, I'm certainly not going to anoint anyone based off the back of Summer League. But now we've had a look at him. Mikey, I'll come to you first. You were pretty big, I think, on Anthony Black before the draft, if my memory serves me correct. What's your initial thoughts?
Well, I think the Detroit Pistons game was certainly probably his best performance of the 3 games. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 7 of 10 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. I think I messaged you guys the following morning. It wasn't a spoiler in the group, but I said to you guys, I saw everything I needed to see from Anthony Black in that opening game, because he flashed a little bit of everything that he can do. He's a big guard, we know that. He can rebound the ball. I think it was his passing that really impressed me. I know he finished with 17 points and he had a few highlights. He had a few and ones. He had the big one off where he had the bank shot 3 and got fouled, went to the free throw line, and then the play where, what was it, that he had his span, then he crossed the defender over, drove into the middle, had that little step back too. He just does a lot of things really well. Obviously 7 turnovers is a little bit of a concern, and he had 5 against New York as well. But he's got a lot of learning. He's got a lot to develop into do. We know that, but I think it was the passing that really impressed me out of all of it. I think you can see he's got some Markel faults in him. He wants to get out and run. He wants to play fast. You could see he'd get a rebound, or he'd get the ball off of a missed shot from the other team, and he's looking to kick ahead the ball, and you were seeing assists where he's kicking the ball ahead to the corner for Caleb Houston threes, Jett Howard threes, and he's always got his head up. He's always looking to make a play. He's not a selfish player. He's looking to get everybody else involved and catch teams early, I suppose, on the fast break. But yeah, for me, and also the 3 steals, there was a lot of deflections. He was causing a lot of problems with his size defensively. I don't think he necessarily played that aggressively. I think he played quite within himself. I don't feel like... I think he reminds me of Franz 2 years ago in Summer League, where he didn't really go out and show. He wasn't super aggressive the way he played. He sort of just, I don't know, let the game come to him and played at his own pace. And I think Anthony Black certainly played like that in his 3 games in Summer League. But yeah, first impression's really good. I think he's going to make an impact from day one, especially on the defensive end, which I think we'll see once we get into training camp, pre-season, and once the season starts.
Fair enough, mate. I think for me, I was just impressed how quickly he moved the ball up the floor. That was impressive, and it's another player who can do that. Paul, it's obviously only been a glimpse, but if you were looking into a crystal ball, for example, what does a good season look like for Anthony Black?
I kind of guess that we're talking about that he's attained or is pushing for a regular starting position. I guess that's a good season for him. Mm-hmm. I definitely think we will have seen him get starting minutes. Now, whether that's to cover injuries or just to get experience of being in a starting group. Mm-hmm. But that's the question for me, whether he's going to be pushing to be one of the regular 5 starters. On a very small viewing, as you say, so far, he's definitely capable of doing so. He's, as Mikey said, excellent defence, great court vision. The other thing that's really impressed me is his athleticism. Where he got up for the little putback to take us into overtime against New York. That was a good anticipation play, which, to be fair, off of a fairly decent look and a decent effort from Jett in the first place, it was unlucky that didn't actually drop and win us the game. Speaking of which, that New York game, and I'll come back to Anthony Black in a minute. How bad was the editing of the NBA League Pass for that game? I don't know whether you guys had it. Went to timeout with 12 seconds left, and the broadcast finished, the edited broadcast. Mm-hmm. So you didn't get the last 12 seconds of play, and there was none of the overtime. So I had to watch. You watched. So you put on the recap, and the only instance from the overtime was you got the putback that took us to overtime. So you'd missed the basket beforehand, and you'd got their winning effort. Other than that, there was nothing. Really bad editing. And the other thing I'm going to have a moan about before we go on, I really hate that they've been putting the record on when you've got no spoilers highlighted. If you know your team, and it says
up on the home screen,
and it says Magic 2-0, or sorry, 0-2, 0-3. You know the result beforehand. That's a spoiler. So do better, NBA League Pass. But anyway, coming back to Anthony Black, the original point. Sorry, I've got off on one. I'll put the soapbox away. As like I said, the turnovers are a concern, but at this stage, I'm not worried about them. You're talking about somebody who's playing with a new roster, and so learning the players that you are playing with in that game. And let's be honest, the roster we've put together, very, very few of those from Summer League are going to be part of the Magic squad come October. So that's to be expected that we're seeing turnovers at this point. I'm not going to set totals of what I think average-wise for points per game and assists per game are going to be, partly because some of that is dependent on others' performances. If you are talking about assists per game, you need others to be hitting the shots. We can't always say that's going to happen. So from my perspective, I'm wanting to see him make good choices with the basketball. I'm wanting to see more of what we had for our opening basket in the Detroit game, where he drove into the paint, kick back pass out for a three from, I think it was Caleb Houston. Those sorts of good decision making are what you're wanting to see. I'm wanting to see more of that defense, because the lad he's got the dog in him as far as defensive play goes. He's been getting steals and deflections for fun throughout Summer League. So that's something that you're wanting to see continue. Him and Jalen could be a very, very good partnership defensively. As to how often he's going to be in the starting unit, I guess with Markel, Jalen being present, there's a little bit of the pressure off of him for that, and he has time to develop and grow into the role. So long as we are seeing through the season his turnovers dropping and his involvement being effective, then I'm saying that's a good season.
Fair play. I think as well, you're right when you said there's the dog in him on defense. I think that's definitely been his calling card for drafting. Yeah. You're obviously talking about starter minutes or not, and this is going to bring me to G. Particularly after the first game, Anthony Black AB is being called the future of the Magic. There was some people I saw, and it's up to them whether they hold this view, start him straight away. G, if you just looked at our current roster, what do you think the Magic backcourt of the future looks like?
Well, first of all, I agree totally with Paul and Mikey's analysis of Black, in this Summer League. Just must be noted, it is against fringe NBA players, and it is his first 3 games. Yeah. So he's finding his feet. Things are going to be coming at him very fast. He's only 19, so he's absolutely, you mentioned called the future. He certainly is part of that future. I think putting him into the sort of starting unit is way too soon. Point guard's one of the most difficult positions to learn in the NBA, from what pros have been saying. So to bring him on slowly, let him learn. He's going to have good vets in his ear. Gary Harris, got Joe Ingles, albeit he plays a different position. And there's a plethora of guards there who've done it. And you've seen Markelle, you've seen Cole be in the ears of Jalen Suggs, etc., over the last couple of seasons. So for me, going forward, you've almost got to keep the backcourt as it is until you're happy that he's there to make the jump. The guys mentioned, he's fantastic on defense. He gets in the right places, tips, etc. So you might see him come in situational circumstances, need a stop. You might put Black in with Suggs, situational again. Maybe, end of the game, they need a basket. Maybe you go with, a Fultz and a Harris. A playmaker and a shooter. So for me, the backcourt is quite fluid at the moment. Myself, I've said this weeks and weeks ago, it's Fultz and Suggs for me, because you've got that playmaker and you've got Suggs, who's a menace on defense and a bit of a kind of a Marcus Smart kind of player. Then you bring Cole Anthony, who's your green light shooter. And I probably would play Anthony Black with Cole, just so you've got a bit of size with Black. You've got the scoring with Cole. And obviously Black's got those capabilities of, being taller than possibly a couple of other guards with his size, ability to, he's just a bit tricky, I thought. It was a good word to describe him from what I saw. So in terms of the guard rotation, with those four, you got Gary Harris. You've got so many different looks you can throw at teams, and it's always good to have, especially if we can have an injury-free season with those as a rotation, then the future's looking bright. And it's all for Anthony Black to learn from his peers and just get better. But as the guy said, it's about reps in his first year, and the more reps he gets, he's playing with better players, he'll get better himself. And hopefully he'll get, to be the starter in a couple of seasons.
And you also said plethora there, G, and it's one of my favourite words. So
is it?
Winner of word of the night there early on. Well done.
Can I just add one more point to what G just said? And I agree about Anthony Black and Cole coming off the bench together. He had 14 rebounds in that final game. I think he had 7 and 5 in the first two. Well, Cole Anthony's a really, really good rebounder for his size and for his position. So if you've got Cole, Anthony Black coming off the bench together, you've got a really good rebounder backcourt. If you add Jalen Suggs to that mix, because I think Gary Harris will start the season at the moment. I think if you've got two guys there that are going to play as well defensively as we're ever going to, you got two really, really good potential elite defenders there. And out of those three positions, you got two really good rebounding guards as well. I think we're going to see a defensive unit, because then you add Jonathan Isaac into the mix if he's healthy. That second unit is going to be really hard to score against. They might not score much, but they're going to be really tough to score against. So, yeah, I just thought I'd add that.
You could be throwing in Goga as well, couldn't you? To that defensively. So
yeah,
it is interesting. It's intriguing, and I think Mosley's going to have to earn his coin this time round for how he manages the rotations, because you're then talking about Joe Ingles, you're talking about Gary Harris, and you're talking about who we're going to come to now. Nice segue into Jett Howard, who was our 11th pick, and his best game took place in front of his dad against the Knicks. He's being christened the shooter the Magic have needed off the back of this. So, Paul, based on our wonderful League Pass coverage, what were your thoughts on Jett Howard that the League Pass allows you to have?
Right, I'll start by saying I do have a little concern at his ability to finish through contact when he's in the paint towards the rim. There's been more than one basket that he's not been able to get home as a result of defensive attention. That's something that at this stage will probably become less of an issue as he goes through summer and the regular reps with the Magic, as he gets playing against stronger guys, as he spends more time in the gym and develops that strength. So it's not a huge issue, but it is something that there is a little concern on what I've seen so far. But again, we're only talking such a very small sample size. He's certainly a good shooter. He certainly can shoot the ball. He seems to have a nice stroke, and he can shoot in a variety of ways. We've seen step backs, pull ups, shooting on the drive. He can certainly run the floor, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. He just seems to be a bit more than a shooter. What we were kind of led to believe we were getting. He seems to have a little bit more than that. He made one or two nice plays, so he's got a bit of playmaking ability, and there is also, as I say, that ability to cut to the basket, which he's got, but with a bit of work, which I think will come. Ultimately, I think the biggest surprise for me has been his defence. It's been better than was advertised. I'm not saying he's the star as far as defence goes, but he has played a decent job. He has done a decent job against multiple positions that he's been asked to guard in those opening games of Summer League. I'm quite happy so far. It's like we said, the old cliche of it is Summer League. I'm not worried whether he's dropped in 30 points in a game or whatever. He's shown ability. He's shown athleticism, which is good to see, because we all know from what was said, he came off of last season having an ankle issue. He's certainly got a bounce about him. So hopefully that's resolved. So yeah, I'm quite happy. Give him time. Give him the opportunity to develop. Give him time to grow. I don't think he's got as much time as Caleb had. Being the 11th pick, I think he's got to hit the ground running sooner than Houston did.
Interesting what you said there, Paul. And obviously, it's we've got to see what happens in the regular season. But the last two drafts, we've been told that Franz Wagner is unathletic, doesn't have athleticism. And we've also been told that Paolo Banchero is a revolving door on defense.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how accurate the college hoops experts have been this time with Jett Howard in the defensive end call, and the offensive game of Anthony Black. We'll see how close they've been, but they haven't really nailed it, so to speak, for Wagner and Banchero in the last two, shall we say. So I think that's a little story to watch as the season unfolds.
But I just thought his defense was better than we were being led to believe. Huge positive.
I think as well, what needs to be borne in mind is what the defensive schemes are on the teams they're on. You know, like when Banchero came out of Duke, I saw a couple of Duke fans. I think I mentioned it on one of the pre-draft episodes when we were talking about it. I said I'd heard some Duke fans say that the defensive schemes there weren't great. It wasn't necessarily Banchero. It was just anyone would have looked bad in that. And again, you don't know at Michigan. And Mosley seems to be a guy who can get that extra 5% out of players. So it's going to be interesting to see, again, what happens on a team that potentially could be better defensively than it was, especially when you're putting Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs at the forefront alongside Jonathan Isaac. So this brings me to the next point. Back from my real GM days, a friend of mine, Randy, is a huge fan of Michigan, Magic and Michigan fan. He's from Michigan. And I asked him his take on Jett Howard, and he got back to me and said that Jett is as good as he's seen on the offensive end as a Michigan fan. And it's similar to what I asked Paul, but I'm going to ask G. So what's a good season from Jett Howard look like this season, G?
Well, I mean, Jett's the same age as, albeit a couple of months, as Anthony Black. So he's 19, turning 20 in September. Now, the issue that I find that we've got with Jett is that he's going to be down the pecking order because of his position. So you've obviously got Franz Wagner, who's going to be taking up the majority of the minutes. You've brought in Joe Ingles. You've got Chuma Okeke. You've got Jonathan Isaac, who could potentially play a little bit of 3, maybe, 4. And then there's somebody else as well. And then you've got Caleb Houston. So you've got a bit of a depth problem there in that he might not get much reps on the court early in the season. Things happen, etc. So for me, Jett Howard's just got to stay ready, take his opportunities when he gets them. He might get a few games with Lakeland. Can he get a few games with Lakeland, or has he got to be a 2-way?
No, he can still go down to Lakeland.
He can still go down to Lakeland.
Osceola.
Yeah, of course. Good save there, mate. Good save. So yeah, he's just got to get ready, stay ready, get reps with these, new teammates, better players, learn the system. He obviously comes from an NBA family with his father, Juwan Howard. So, he's got, I guess the NBA basketball player DNA. He probably knows it all anyway from being around his father, when he was a player. So it's all about staying ready, taking your opportunities and making the most of your opportunities, learning the system, being as good a pro as you can be, and then just contributing given the opportunity. I think, mate.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll go from there, and then we'll obviously throw in as well the injuries thing, because we never know how it's going to go.
No, exactly. And it's unfortunate, really, because you got players like Okeke. He's really struggled the last couple of seasons. Two seasons ago, we thought he was, baby Kawhi, didn't we? And we thought, well, we got something really good here. But unfortunately, he's been struggling with a few injuries and right down the depth chart. But he's still on the roster, so these guys are going to be fighting one another to get those minutes. And like you guys mentioned, Coach Mosley's got to really earn his check now. In his rotations.
Mm-hmm. And just jump in a second,
yeah,
Gary. One thing I did miss saying that I did like about Jett Howard is his willingness to shoot. Even if he's not been hitting, he's still been putting himself into an available position. He's still been getting into that spot and taking the shot. Mm-hmm. Whether it's gone, whether it's fell, it hasn't mattered. He's still had the willingness to be that player who gets into that position and takes the responsibility. That's a huge thing for a young kid.
That's that NBA pedigree, though, isn't it? Because you can see it in Cole and you can see it in Jett as well.
Yeah. And if he's the best shooter on the team, he's going to get on the floor. Late game situations, you need shooting to space the floor. Then he might just get on the floor anyway. So again, situational, and you just got to be ready.
I'm going to kind of ask Mikey the same question, G, which you've covered, but it's something I think, like Mikey, we had a chat about this the other day, but I think there's going to be this constantly interlinked narrative for all of next season, at least, where you're going to see the comparisons of how Grady Dick's doing, how Jordan Hawkins is doing, how maybe Cam Whitmore's doing, because we've seen that happen with other players previously as well. I do think because there was that much... I felt there was more question marks on who was going 11 than who was going 6. Not because we knew that Anthony Black was going 6, because nobody knew, but there was a lot of intrigue, expecting it to be Dick, to be Hawkins, perhaps be Lively, etc. at the 11th pick to get the shooter. I think we figured that was the pick where we picked up the shooter. And then obviously Cam Whitmore slid down the draft order. Nobody anticipated him going as late as he did. And he's been a bit of a hit for Houston. I think Whitmore, for me, and I know he's a different type of player, has got the capability in a couple of years' time where he's going to be the Michael Porter Jr. of this draft, where it's a guy who came in, had a high reputation, hit with injuries, slid down the draft order, and then got picked up later on and comes in looking like a good third option on what is a championship team, even though he didn't light it up in the finals. So, Mikey, in your crystal ball, like you've heard what G had to say, what do you think the rookie season looks like for Jett?
I think it's going to be really interesting that if I feel like Anthony Black's ready to contribute from day one. I think Jett Howard's going to be dependent on, because I feel like he's going to be a streaky shooter, certainly in his first couple of years. I think we saw that from Terence Ross. Like when Terence Ross wasn't knocking down shots, he was ineffective. And I feel like if Jett Howard's going to see the rotation early in the season, he's got to make shots. And I think he can. I think we saw from Summer League, he's more than capable of knocking down threes. And I think that's really going to be dangerous for other teams to defend him and defend the Magic as a unit. And like G's already said, I think you might see him in late game situations where you need a three or you need that extra shooter on the floor. You can certainly put him out there and feel he's confident enough that he's going to make shots. And like Paul's already alluded to, that he's not afraid to shoot. And we saw that early in Summer League, that the Detroit game, he was really inefficient from the field. And as he played the second and third game against Indiana and New York, his efficiency picked up, and we saw he had the outburst in the third game. I think we're going to see games where it might be situational, where we see Jett play, I don't know, a good 20, 25 minutes off the bench. And then I think there's going to be stretches of games where he might even struggle getting on the floor. I think it's going to be hard for him to crack the rotation on a consistent basis, whereas I think Anthony Black's ready to do that. I think that's the difference. You're right. I think he's always going to get those comparisons to Grady Dick, Jordan Hawkins and Cam Whitmore, but we've got, as Magic fans, we've got to forget about that. I think we've got to have more. I think with these two rookies, we've got to have a little bit more patience with them, because they're not going to get the opportunities that Paolo's had and Wagner's had and Jalen Suggs have had in their early couple of seasons, because they've been given more opportunity because we're rebuilding from an earlier stage, whereas now they're up against bigger competition, and I think that competition's going to dictate who plays and who doesn't, and who's in the rotation and who's not. So yeah, like G said, I think we could see stretches where maybe Jett Howard goes to Lakeland, possibly. I don't think that will happen, but I think it's more
Osceola.
Osceola, sorry. We're both doing it. But I think if anyone's going to go to Osceola for reps, it's going to be Chuma, because I don't think he's going to get any playing time unless injuries really hit us, even if it's just practicing with the team. But I'm veering off the tangent now. But yeah, I think there's going to be stretches where he plays decent minutes, and I think there's going to be stretches where you might only see the floor for 10 minutes because there's other players who, like, he's going up against Joe Ingles, Gary Harris. You've got two solid vets. Well, if they're going to put us in a position where we can win the game, then you expect Mosley to lean on those guys. You want Jett Howard to get the experience, but it's that balance. How important is it for the Magic to win games this year? Or is it more important to give the 11th pick reps and experience? It's going to be an interesting balance. I think early in the year, I think it's all going to come down to training camp and preseason. Who's playing the best? Who's going to create those lineups that other teams are really going to hate playing against? Yeah. And basically, best players are going to see the floor, and if you're not playing well, you're not going to. And I think it's as simple as that at the moment.
I think, for example, we're chasing a playing spot, and I don't think Toronto necessarily will be. So it's going to be a bit unfair to see how Dick measures up to. I got it in there. One more for the road, lads. It's going to be a bit unfair to see how he does against those guys. And I know I mentioned to Mikey the other morning because we spoke when I was going to work. I think the comparison of how the rookie season might go might be someone like Moses Moody. where Moody, Golden State, totally different position to us, but you had to really earn your minutes to get on the Golden State roster because of what they were trying to do. And in our context of what we're trying to do is what Mikey's just said, is winning games and earning your spot. And I don't think anyone doubts that Moody is a contributor with the Warriors and he's got a place in the league. But it's going to be a case of how the Magic are doing. And if the Magic are, hanging around the 6th to 9th, 10th position all season, Jett Howard might find it harder breaking into that lineup because guys like Joe Ingles late in games have been there and done it. So I think it's going to be interesting. So it might be a bit of an unfair comparison when you look at what Toronto seem to be doing, what Houston are certainly doing, where I think your likes of your Cam Whitmores and your Grady Dicks might get more minutes out the gate quicker than Jett Howard will. Because, like, by all accounts, Siakam's the next one out of Toronto. That seems to be what people are talking about in the whisperings of Elon Musk's social media app, And
another similar comparison is JJ Redick, when the Magic drafted JJ Redick. I mean, the Warriors are a contender, whereas if you think when the Magic drafted JJ, we were up and coming, and he had to earn, exactly your point, he had to earn those minutes, and he didn't really get much playing time in the first few years, and then he began to develop, and then he saw the floor as the Magic got better. And I think you can see Jett Howard sort of on that path at the moment.
Patience is where I think this new in-season tournament can be massive for us. Getting this young squad experience of those sorts of games, and somebody like Jett Howard is going to benefit from us being all in the in-season tournament and actually pushing for getting to Vegas. They can gain valuable experience of win or go home games and meaningful games. I think it's a huge thing for us. And I think somebody that could really benefit from that is Jett.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. It's these little subplots are starting to form already, aren't they? I'm gonna continue with Mikey, but we're all gonna have a go at what's coming up on the themes. But one of the subplots really is for the Magic is when we see the Summer League is for our squad, how many of the teams show up. It becomes a thing where it's like pretty much everyone's there to support the rookies and those guys who are actually playing on the Summer League unit. And we've seen the photos, we've seen the footage. It's all been led by the GOAT himself, Cole Anthony. But Mikey, what did you take from the footage without reading too much into it?
Well, first of all, I love Cole's interview that he did with with a bit of commentary in there, and I think there was an Kevon Harris and one in that somewhere. And he's going, yeah, it's just classic Cole, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's another testament to Jamal Mosley that he's got everybody bought in, and it's not a secret that all these players are up against each other, but they are all in on one another as well. They're all together, and I think it's a really, really good thing to see. Yeah, I just think we look. I can't remember the last time I remember a Magic team being this much, being so together. That's probably the best way. Magic together, classic. But it is that is the slogan. That is literally how I feel about this roster at the moment. Is they are all in together. And if you're in the rotation, you're out the rotation. They're still cheering everybody else on, and I think they're gonna their open arms for Anthony Black and Jett Howard to come in and contribute and help the Magic get back to the playoffs. Yeah,
speaks for itself. And you mentioned Kevon Harris there, and he's been unsurprisingly going all out. So Paul, I think we all share the similar opinion on this pod, but can you give Kevon some love? Because I think we've got it, really.
He just brings energy. Jeez. I would love to have half that guy's energy. It doesn't matter to him whether he's playing 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. he is giving you everything he has on that court. He's got the dog again, like we said earlier. He's just got such strength, and his defensive determination and grit is a sight to behold. He really works his backside off, and we saw him get minutes through that last season. I know he's only played. I think he's only played the one game, hasn't he? He's only played the one game at Summer League.
Yeah. Bit like power forward at one point, wasn't he?
He shot 61%, 21 points, 6 rebounds, and he was the team leader in both those categories. He had two steals as well, but only 2 turnovers in 20 odd minutes of play. He may struggle for minutes back during the regular season, but he's a great option to have. I genuinely love the guy. Really,
he's like a walking sugar hit, isn't he?
He
like blue sugar.
You want somebody to come off the bench and bring energy and bring enthusiasm.
Yeah,
Darrell Armstrong 2.0.
Yeah, he does that. Great guy.
Blue Sugar, that's his nickname now.
Blue Sugar. Don't you guys think though he deserves an NBA spot somewhere though?
Yeah.
He's too good for a 2-way contract.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
You cannot help, but no matter what team you plug him into, you'd want him to do well.
Yeah.
You just want him to do well. He's just willing them on. He's like a feel-good story. We've got a bunch of players on this team who are feel-good stories, where you look at like Markel, you could look at Admiral Schofield's another one, I think, who's been on the team and will come to him in a moment. But I think Kevon Harris is another way. You just like, doesn't matter like what happens for him on the court. You know he's given 150 every single point, and you cannot knock that when someone's coming in doing that, whatever their job is. Someone comes in and gives you that all day. It's great. Staying on the theme of the bench, he got some minutes last night, but a guy who got a lot of attention going into the Summer League is Kai Sotto. And there's been a few complaints online to the point of like when a friend of mine who's an OKC fan, Johnny, if he's listening to this, messaged me going, "Why are you guys doing this to Kai Sotto and everything?" And I was like, well, there's probably reasons for it. But even he'd hit on it as an OKC fan. And I am a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more of them than we've had, given the fanfare, given the lack of size that's on the Summer League roster. But what's your thoughts on the Kai Sotto situation?
Well, you just picked up on it there. It's the lack of size on the current roster, isn't it? So you think you'd use somebody who's 7'3", 21-year-old guy just to see what he can do. Obviously, I had a little look back at what he was playing in the Australian League for the Adelaide 36ers last season. But I'm a little bit perplexed as to why he hasn't been given as many minutes. And I mean, last night's game against the Blazers wasn't great at all, but he was one of the bright points of it, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks in about 13 minutes or so. So there's potential there. I'd like to see him possibly get a 2-way contract, but obviously, he's not going to guarantee himself any sort of spot on the roster. He's going to have to play himself in. If he was to get a 2-way contract, he's obviously going to get to learn and play with these better players, learn the system, etc. So he's got the tools. In those 13 minutes and those stats, very, very small sample size, but, there might be something there, but there might not be. So obviously the Filipino community all behind him, and fair play to them. They're backing their guy, and that's good to see. And could be a few more Magic fans there if we were to sign him. So no, I would offer him the 2-way contract myself, but I'm not the powers that be.
I don't know whether you've seen this, G, but I'm sure I've read somewhere that he doesn't want and is refusing a 2-way contract.
Right. No, I hadn't heard that, mate.
He wants a full NBA position. So, I don't know how true that is, but I know I've read that somewhere that he doesn't want a 2-way contract or to play G League. He wants a full contract. I think if that is the case, he's limiting himself. He's not looking at the big picture. If that is the case, we've seen others take that route of the two-way contract or playing for a G League team or a G League affiliate and work their way into the parent club. We've seen Ken Birch do it. We've seen Admiral do it.
Chris Boucher.
I was just about to mention him as well. If that is the case, I think it's a mistake. I haven't seen last night's game. However, I understand from what I've heard is that he played a really strong centre role, and certainly a position that we were saying that we need a bit of backup on. But why not? I hope it isn't true that he's holding out for a full contract and refusing two-way.
I'm going to be honest. I don't get the hype. I really don't.
I say I've not seen last night's, but
I haven't either. And if you look from the stats point of view, I look at it and I'm like, it's not really impressive. I haven't watched what he's capable of doing, but I think part of the reason, and you guys can disagree with me if you think, that so many Magic fans are so interested in Kai Soto is because there's so many questions about the backup centre role that people are looking at. Oh, there's this young up and coming big man who's available who could potentially fill that role. I think that's played a part in it. I think the reason we haven't seen him that much is either one, the Magic are trying to keep what he's capable of doing a little bit under wraps. Maybe that's why he's only played 13 minutes so far, so that other teams don't necessarily go and offer him a full contract and the Magic say, here's a two-way spot for Osceola. Got it right that time, G. Or he's just not good enough.
I've been wondering if we've been trying to have a good look at DJ Wilson. He seems to have had a lot of minutes. And the other thing I would say, to be fair, is that the team we put out last night was not a strong team. I've not been impressed by our squad that we've put together for this G League. Other teams seem to have come with a far stronger group, we'll put it that way. I don't believe that Jett, Caleb, Anthony Black or Kevon played last night, at which point you put in Sota in with a very much weakened a group of four. So perhaps just as a balance, I don't know.
So it was an ugly game, mate. I wouldn't even watch it. Just watch the highlights. Seriously, it was bad.
So if he's playing with 4 NBA players, if he's playing without 4 NBA players, then you'd like to think he would look decent.
Yeah, but it's again, I don't know what the opposition team, what Poland had put out there.
But like you said, Paul, Jett Howard didn't play, Anthony Black didn't play, Kevon didn't play.
Yeah, but at which point you haven't necessarily got some of the playmaking of the others. I don't. It's interesting. I think that there's been a lot of hype online about him, but equally there's been a lot of people coming back saying there's a reason he hasn't been offered a spot. There's a reason he can't remain in the Australian League, and there's a reason he doesn't get picked or he doesn't get offered European basketball, and that is that he's not good enough. I didn't see last night, so I'm not talking from a position of having watched anything he's done.
What's your thoughts on it, Guy?
I think a lot of it is that what you said, Mikey. It's that there's a big man needed, and people are looking for answers. And we've seen it before. We saw it when we had the T-Mac team, and we were always desperately trying to get a centre who could give you good reps. And it was like anyone who came in automatically almost hit the Orlando Sentinel hype machine about what this guy potentially could do if there were a 4 or a 5. And I think in a way we're kind of clutching at that backup centre strings, thinking, well, who's going to be the great hope? Because it was Mo Bamba. If you wanted to hold out hope, people were like, oh, maybe it's Mo's year, maybe he's going to do this, this, and this, and then it's been found not to be. And I think almost when Soto comes in with a big backing, which he's got on social media because he's a hero to the Filipino community, which I totally get, it kind of drives a hype machine behind him. And for me, I wondered if he just saw minutes last night, maybe that they were trying to find a way to work him into a rotation, get him fit, etc. But at the same point in time, you do get to a point where there's people drifting around and you go, well, okay, why have you not been picked up? You know, it's not like we've got a bad talent evaluation system going on our squad. We've got a pretty good one, and they've nailed a lot more than they've missed. And there are 30 teams in the NBA, and if you're good enough, you would like to think if you were playing G League games and if you were playing Summer League games and you were playing in competitive leagues in Australia, etc., that somebody's going to notice you. So I think it'll be interesting where it goes, but I think if Soto wanted to get into the NBA, if what Paul said is true, his best way would have been signing for a G League and earning his way up. You know, you're 21 years old, you've been playing in Australia, you're a big guy, you've got that advantage. It's not like he's 6'3". We're talking 7'3" now. You've already got some natural advantages. So, you know, earn your way up. Look at Kevon Harris. Earn your way in. It's interesting because Admiral Schofield was hanging around on the Magic bench. And we're talking about, you know, like who would fill the final spot. So would you bring the Admiral back? I would. Like, that's cards on the table, no doubt. Bring Admiral Schofield back all day, every day. Fight the world. You know?
There's no doubt for me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got Kevon Harris and Admiral Schofield, I'd be happy with those two as your last two men off the bench, regardless, if I'm honest. You don't expect them to see many minutes, but when they do play, you know they're going to do a decent job.
Yeah. Tough pros.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's, again, same as we said about Kevon Harris. He always turns out, Admiral does, works hard, gives you his energy. I think he deserves a spot.
Yeah. I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I like Admiral. I like what he brings. We know what he brings. But, I mean, he's not going to see minutes. But I think that roster spot might be better used elsewhere. And I'm sure your next point on the old agenda here, Gary, I'd rather see this person back.
All right, then. So that's a lovely segue, G. You aren't known as the Welsh Wizard for nothing. Our man, Dwight Howard, speaking of Howards, it seems to be a buzzword tonight, was active on Twitter Spaces. Credit to Stanley Swanson for capturing it. Great follow on Twitter if you've got the Twitter Elon Musk app. And Stanley Swanson was on the spot, and he captured this on Mr. Tesla's social platform. And Dwight said the phrase blew him away. Sorry, I just think the guy's nuts. If I'm being so I'm just might as well ride it before I get shadow banned myself. I'll not get the official account banned, guys. I'll just get myself banned. We've got Blue and White Ignite was said by Dwight, but then he said the young boys have got it. I felt as though Dwight does these spaces to try and get himself back to notoriety and somebody to notice him personally. So, G, we'll start with you. You've seemed as though you're in there. Would you use the final spot on Dwight?
I would. Obviously, we come full circle to, you know, how it started. I think it's possibly needed. We've been through the messy divorce. We've all, you know, had signs, you know, Dwight's not welcome, especially when he was wearing that yellow jersey that we hate so much. But time's a healer. And, you know, let's be honest, he's been one of the best players to ever wear a Magic jersey, hasn't he? So let's get full circle, bring him back. I would then let him, you know, give his experience to the younger players. he can still do a job. He did a job for that team in 2020 in the bubble when they won the Mickey Mouse Cup. He can set a screen. I just think it's the right thing to do. I know you might disagree, and we're just possibly opening up old wounds, but why not? Why not bring him back? And it solves a backup. If you're in real problem with the centre depth, you chuck Dwight in there. He'll do a job for you.
Tell you what, G, the way you started that off without the relationship advice, it felt like Jerry Springer there. Jerry.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
So, Paul, where do you stand on this? Would you bring Dwight back?
Do we have an available roster spot? I know we've got 2 ways available. He isn't going to accept that, I don't believe. So if we haven't got an available roster spot, then he isn't the option. If we have, and I can't remember whether we have or not, I'm not going to pretend, then yes. Because of his experience.
I think Chuma will go. So I think that's where the roster spot will open, because I think Chuma will go.
I'm going to say, because we haven't got one at the moment, as far as I was aware. That's why I was questioning if we actually got one. If we have an available spot, that's the position that we need for me to have some additional cover. I'm happy to have somebody come into that position who has experience and can still do a job, because I'm sure he can. So yes, I'd be quite open for that. Yeah.
He's shooting threes now, by the way. Well, he was overseas.
Don't mean they were accurate.
I know.
Just because he's shooting them. Hey, I can shoot a 3.
Yeah. He's doing the green light over there, wasn't he?
It barely reaches the paint is a different matter.
What about you, Gary?
I'm basing this on the assumption that I think the roster spot will clear, because I think we might do a gentleman's thing for Chuma Okeke. I think there might be something where it's like he goes for a second, like to Houston or Detroit or someone like that, because I don't think he's going to get the minutes and it'll clear the logjam. And I'm saying that as someone who likes Chuma, actually, and I'd rather Chuma stayed if you gave me the option. I loved Dwight's time in Orlando the first time round. I would love to have Dwight Howard as a podcast guest, but it's a no for me. And the reason it's a no, G, we can use your relationship analogy if you want, but when you're gone, you're gone. That's the first one. But in reality for me more is what Dwight Howard would walk through the door. That's what I would want to know. If it was the Dwight who walks through the door and says, hey guys, I know I've got a year or 2 left in this league and I want to put my arm around the likes of Wendell. I want to help the team. I want to rebuild bridges in the community. There's no ego here. I'm not going to preach about my own personal life or anything like that. I'm coming in to play. There's the 12th man, develop people. Then there's a conversation to be had. But if it's going to be, I'm on Twitter Spaces, I'm here for the controversy, I'm here where you're going to hear my mouth and I'm going to make some headlines, I don't really want that on a young team. And my worry is we'll probably, I might get flamed for this. If I do get flamed for this, flame me and not the pod. That's all I'm going to say. There's a lot of controversy surrounds Jonathan Isaac right now. And I'm not going to go into that because it's not, I don't live in America. I've got no stake in American politics. But when Dwight came into the league, there was some things around Dwight, and there's been things since. And I just don't know what it would attract. If you kind of had that, all this like media attention, would it detract from everything that's good surrounding the young team? So it's a no.
I got to add though, I don't think the front office will do it. I think they're too straight down the line. They wouldn't take that chance. But
I don't think they will, because I think it's one of those like Marmite decisions on the fan base. But I just think that Dwight caught it. He became a little bit Rodman-esque, is what I'm trying to say, when he was last in the league. And I just don't know whether the media they'll want a media storm and focus on the Magic, because they've got to be aware that there is a little bit of that there waiting for whenever GI plays, whether we like it or not. It is there on socials. I'm not getting into it. It's not our place to comment. It's there. And I'm not sure whether they'll want it from two players potentially. So it's a no, because I don't think they'll do it.
It's interesting. I wanted to ask your view before I jumped into it.
Sorry,
Now,
Mike.
no. I genuinely, I wanted to hear your view first. Dwight Howard's time in Orlando is probably some of the fondest years I've had as a Magic fan. I think we can all say that.
Yeah.
Well, apart from Paul, because it's a bit before his time.
Yeah.
But for people who've been following for the team for a long, long time, those sort of mid to late 2000 teams were a lot of fun. And Dwight was a lot of fun to watch and cover and watch his journey from a high school player getting drafted, taking us to the NBA finals and so on. But I have never seen Dwight Howard since he's left Orlando act in a mature way. I just don't feel like I'm with Gary, it's a no for me. I just don't feel like his demeanour, his attitude and the way he's viewed fits around this young team. I wouldn't use a two-way spot on him. Same point with, I think, which is what G was getting at with Admiral Schofield, is those last two-way spots, you really want a couple of young players that you're trying to develop, who you're trying to sort of give them a little taste of what the NBA is like, but also give them the G League experience so they can develop and play minutes. That doesn't make any sense for that. And I think if a roster spot does open, I just don't see how Dwight Howard makes any sense other than his experience taking the team to the NBA finals. I think I already think we've already got the free agent in Joe Ingles. I think we've already got a really great vet who can teach Paolo, who can teach Franz, who can teach Wendell and Anthony Black and all this whole young core of how to be a pro and how to be a really good NBA player and how to take their profession the right way. Dwight was obviously a great player, but I don't think he was a great person. I don't know Dwight Howard, none of us do, and that's just the perception. It's just me looking from the outside in. But I just don't feel. I just wouldn't put him anywhere near this young team for me personally.
One thing on the two-way thing, he's too experienced to use a two-way spot on.
Yeah,
he's been in the league too long.
When you were talking there, Mikey, there's two totally opposite images that I've got in my head of Dwight, two memories. One of them is the fond memory, which is actually a sad memory, but it's a fond one. Mm-hmm. And it's when we lost to the Lakers, and it was Dwight and Jameer sitting there watching, and it was like, get this disappointment, drink it in, because we're coming back and we're going to win. And I always remember looking at that and going, that's what I wanted to see. Guys like that, where it was like, I honestly thought that Dwight and Jameer might have been like, and I think Jameer would have been Magic lifers. Honestly, and I usually am like, how long have they got on the team? And I was like, these guys are here forever. And then I flipped that, and this is where I was at earlier with the Dwight man. And you were a couple of years down the line, and I spent the better part of 6 months going, because of media controversy, because of ego, etc., because of how our roster was blown up when we allowed Dwight to partly GM the roster, in my opinion. I spent about the best part of 6 months get this guy off the team. And I've got both of those things constantly fighting in my mind. And when you look at Joe Ingles, what Mikey just said, is Joe Ingles going to score us 30 points a game in the season? No. But what he is, whereas he might be a bit of a dirty player, which I think we can all agree he is what we would also say is a no-ego good vet.
Mm-hmm.
And it would take, if it was me, it would take a hell of a sales pitch from Dwight to then bring all this back of the Dwight Mayer and acting maturely and stuff. And I say that as someone who paid for an authentic Dwight Howard jersey before he touched a ball in the NBA. And I loved Dwight Howard's time in Orlando. And I've got that memory forever burned into my brain of him and Jameer there. And I felt that season when he took us to the finals, and he took us to the finals. Make no doubt about it. He deserved more love than LeBron that season for me, because he was unreal. But how it ended, you might need Jerry Springer to come back. That's going to take something for me.
Or Jeremy Kyle.
Dwight certainly has had an issue with ego. And Dwight certainly has had an arrogance at times. I kind of felt that the snub for the 75th team has affected him, and he's not been obnoxious is the wrong word, but he's not been that character as since. It seems to have dialed back. If you can have somebody with his experience and his ability that, as you say, will come in and accept that role, then he's a very good option. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with saying, yes, I'd look at it. Yeah.
I'm a massive Will Smith fan, right? I don't know if you guys have watched.
I can't see him getting a two-way, to be honest with you.
No, he's a bit old for that now. He could probably play though.
He's not had the experience, but
yeah, no. There was he did a documentary series or on his YouTube channel. Me and Becky watched it last year, and Becky made the comment about Will Smith he'd be a great person to meet. He's very funny, very charismatic, but you wouldn't want to meet him on his worst day. And I feel like Dwight Howard as a person, I might be completely wrong. This is just my view on it. I think he's a bit lost. I think he's been lost for quite a long time. I think in Orlando, he had the limelight. He was the guy. We were an up-and-coming team. We made the finals. And then he went to LA, and then he went to Houston, and then he bounced around the league, and now he's gone to Taiwan or wherever he's playing. I can't remember. But I just feel like he wants to be loved, if that makes sense. And I feel that Dwight Howard, again, I think on a good day, he would be a good, positive influence for people. But I think on a bad day, I don't think I'd want him around Paolo and friends. That's the only other way I can try and.
Weird, Mikey. Sorry, Paul, go on.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, the stuff that you're talking about, Mike, he has openly accepted the mistakes he's made. We've obviously had his version of how things played out in the Dwight Mayer. I'm sure that the truth lies somewhere in between. But he's acknowledged his errors in behaviour. And yeah, I think I would agree with you. He wants to be loved. Possibly his best way of being loved is being back in Orlando and finishing his legacy, the right word? Finishing his story with the team by being the better person that he should have been with us to start with. Maturity can sometimes give you that.
And for me, Magic Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
how
yeah.
that's how I would
given.
end it. That's how I would end it. I just don't think as a player we're there anymore.
Kind of got that thing where it's like people think the grass is greener somewhere else in a job or a relationship or something else, because
100%.
he was loved. Like, he was really loved on like the level of T-Mac, Shaq, Penny, etc. when he was in Orlando. And I remember when he departed, I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was a journalist or something said that when he goes into a big market, obviously we know where he went, that when he's not going to be protected by the big market media and the big market fans like he was in Orlando. And I think that became pretty evident about, with what we've seen, some of the stories that come out, like with his rivalry with Kobe, and how it kind of, the microscope on him and such didn't look great when he was under more scrutiny. And I'll just echo, like, I say what I say as a huge Dwight Howard fan. When he didn't get in the top 75 players of all time, I was like, this is absolutely insane.
It's ridiculous.
And when people compare Rudy Gobert and his Dwight Howard, I'm just like, you need to put the crack pipe down. There is no comparison. Rudy Gobert would never lead a team to an NBA final and play the level that Dwight did. But it's just, I would have to be convinced of a hell of a lot of things. And it's not a question of talent or size. That would be the questions I'd be answering. And I'll say it again. Dwight Howard, some of my fondest memories of a Magic fan are of Dwight Howard and Jermaine Nelson in that team.
Well, I wasn't expecting a Dwight Howard episode.
I'm still thinking there's some potential better options available, by the way. But yes, if it's an option, it's one I'd look at. Yeah.
I just compare this to the Hawks having Vince Carter as a vet for those last couple of years. Just think there's better vets you could put around this young core than Dwight Howard.
I think the vet will be LeBron James when we get
when we get Bronny.
When we draft Bronny and he has to come to Orlando and asks if we'll unretire the sixth man shirt and all this type of stuff.
Oh, dear.
Get the salt and like you throw it up in the air and everything like that.
I can't wait to see G with a LeBron James shirt.
It will never happen. I can guarantee
it will.
you that.
The Joe Ingles one's going to happen. The LeBron one will happen.
All we need then for you, G, is to get TJ McConnell, and you've got your trilogy.
Oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine?
The Welsh Ingles, you need to get that on the back of your jersey, don't you? Hey,
I don't know.
I was thinking more of the Cardiff Lowry.
No. Markel, isn't it? It's going to be Markel again next season.
We never expected going down that Dwight-sized rabbit hole. So
No, we didn't, did we?
Still listening. Thank you very much. Thank you as always for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Orlando Magic UK, and leave us your comments. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Orlando Magic UK. So for G, for Mikey, and for Paul, myself, go Magic.